Hello and welcome to this brief walkthrough of our story notebook that accompanies the paper of the same name, a characterization of interactive visual data stories with a spatio-temporal context. This notebook is code-based and cell-based, so when we write code, we can produce either text cells or visualization cells that we see further down below. In case you should ever click here to the left of such a cell, the underlying code will expand, but you can just collapse it like this by clicking on the left here. So if this should ever happen, don't be confused. That's how you can change it back. The overall contents of the notebook are listed here. Like I said, I'll just do a quick walkthrough. You can download the data that we collected of the 130 stories along with the classification. The classification is also listed here in this visualization. Can see it for all of the stories. You can also click a row here to open the corresponding link to the story in a new tab. In addition, afterwards, we talk about the usage deviations from the average based on the theme. You can select the theme here via the dropdown. So that's a common thing that we do here across this notebook, having such selectors to toggle between different attributes. We have different views here that show how for the themes the technique usage is deviated from the average. Then a newly added section here for our revised version introduces the user, or more like the story author, to the different patterns that come up when they select only a subset of stories and look how the techniques were combined there. So here we have, for example, by default selected as the theme climate. You could also add or remove other themes, and then you can drill down here, for example, by selecting or deselecting certain techniques to find which other techniques they were combined with. The average here is displayed as the dotted line, and everything that is above the dotted line is in a darker tone for the color. Right. If you have found a certain subset here, all of the corresponding stories are listed down there, again with a link that can be clicked, so you can get a first-hand impression of how those techniques can be combined in practice, the ones that we've selected up there. Then we also have a similarity exploration where we calculated similarity scores between all of the stories, pairwise similarities, and there we present first the overall similarities, and then we also perform multidimensional scaling to project all of the stories into a two-dimensional space in which the similarities are reflected by how close the stories are mapped to each other here. So the closer two stories are, the more similar they are. Here a subset is selected. You can just draw a polygon like that, and then again we filter down here in the view for the selected subset, so you can get a better impression of what techniques were used there. Then we also looked at the similarity between different sources. Here we have a view where we can just see all pairwise comparisons between all sources. When you hover, you see additional information. This is a general thing. Most of the time when you hover over views, you get additional information, but we also always write this in this interaction note here if there is any interactivity. Right. We've talked about the between source similarity. There's also the between theme similarity. And then lastly, we talk a bit about the trends that we found across the years from 2018, where we started collecting the data, up until 2022. So for those 5 years, we find some trends here. Right. And lastly, some information where we fit straight lines for those trends, and then for those best fit lines we took the slope and then ordered here for the different techniques the slopes, how strong they increase or decrease. We also provide the R-square of the estimations to see how well this best fit line actually fits to the data that is underlying. And lastly, we have the references that we've used here, and then a whole lot of appendix cells that are just used to calculate all of the views up here. Yeah, for the visualizations, you can always also expand and collapse the code that is below a view. Right, and this way you should have a transparent impression of what data we have collected in the process of our paper. Right, thank you much for your attention, and then I wish you happy exploring.